Okie dokie, everybody. I am excited to people's words, and there's a lot of different ways that we can define it. But one that comes to mind for me is a designer who realizes the potential of design to shift culture and create social change. So in addition to that, we are designers who know how to take the lead and shift change towards a positive climate impact. So that's what these 12 days are really about. Yesterday, if you were at the tornado thinking session, we learned how to come up with really bold ideas. And we also learned that the status quo works like gravity against those bold ideas, trying to bring them back down to the way things are. And it avoids change. That's what it does. So once you've got a bold idea, like we learned how to do yesterday, how do you bring it into the world? We need to be able to lead others artfully. So what we're doing today is learning how to lead artfully. And who better to teach us than Shana Dressler? Shana trains leaders and helps organizations make big positive impact. She, before founding her current consultancy, she led Google's Social Impact Incubator 30 Weeks. And so I'm going to let her tell you more about it, but I just want to read the description of the session that we're doing right now. If your work focuses on climate issues, there are 3 leadership competencies you need for maximum success: values-based leadership, the art of influencing others for positive change, and raising consciousness so that you don't fall on your own sword. In this interactive session, you will be introduced to several frameworks and conversation prompts. Then you'll be placed in small digital think tanks and report key insights with all workshop attendees at the end of the workshop. So we're going to get our hands dirty, we're going to dig in, we're going to have the hard conversations, and Shana is going to lead the way and teach us how to do that. Take it away, Shana.
Thank you. So welcome, everybody. I know you've already been a couple of days into the conference. I am coming to you from Brooklyn. This is actually, I'm in a new apartment, so it's this is my very first online teaching experience with you in my new place. So my background started in the startup world. That's where I actually met Mark. We were both presenting at A Better World by Design in Providence, which was a combination of people that were at Pratt and at Brown. And that led to a 3-year project we did called the Social Good Guides, because we were both, we realized that there really weren't a lot of resources for people starting social impact organizations about the small business side. After kind of I cycled out of the startup world, because once you run a really great program at Google, for me, I just decided to move on to something different. And I realized that really what excited me the most was working with the entrepreneurs, and really where they were having problems and struggles and needed some extra skills were around leadership. So I went and got leadership training from the Think School of Creative Leadership, and then got more executive coaching training. And here I am to share with you some things that I hope will be very helpful on your own journey to make change in the world. So I'm going to switch over to a presentation, but really the idea here is for as much as I can share with you, I always feel like the group has such incredible intelligence, and you can learn much more from each other than you can from me. But I'll have my email available if I can help in any way after the presentation. I am available to you all. And so let me get started with my presentation, and then we'll break you out into groups, and Mark is in the background or the foreground, and he's going to help facilitate you moving in and out of the tables. And then it might be, we'll see how it goes, but I've created some Google Sheets so that we can do some collaboration. So at the end, we really get to benefit from everybody's insights. If that ends up being a disaster, we'll just abandon it. But we're all design creative people, so we know that we can make mistakes. In fact, the Google Wi-Fi password was fail fast. So I'm a big believer of just embrace all the good and all the bad and just learn from it. All right, so here we go. I'm going to share my screen. and start the presentation. So, so here we are. And I just wanted to give you a sense of the content. So some intro and housekeeping. We're going to talk about leadership, good and bad, the values-based leadership, raising consciousness, the art of influencing, and if we have time, we'll do Q&A. The housekeeping is essentially use the chat as much as you want, but when you have questions, there's another feature, so use that questions, and at the end, if we can get to it, we will field questions. So in talking about leadership, I just this morning did a random search for leadership. I always find it's really interesting to see what you come up with. And this was what I saw. It was basically the first thing that came up. So vision, courage, integrity, humility, strategic planning, focus, and cooperation. And when you look into a lot of leadership literature, it tends to be heavy on business. It's very much about strategy, CEOs, kind of the blue chip companies, and not so much for people that are in creative industries or are really relying on creativity to problem solve. I, over time, have done lots of workshops on leadership. And so one thing we go through is kind of when, workshops were in real time, like sourcing what's good leadership, what's bad leadership. And because we just aren't in a format where that's going to be efficient, I'm sharing a slide that recently I worked with 3 executives that are tech execs that I'm working with to kind of really hone in for them as a unit, as 3 people that are leading, what is most important. And so here are the green dots are essentially things that they told me. And then when I went back to really look at the 3 of them holistically, I basically used, in Photoshop, a highlight feature just so that they can really understand that there's about 6 things that they share. So for them, good leadership was acting as a role model, being collaborative, being courageous, decisive, empowering others to do their best work, engage in tough conversations, enroll other leaders, being fair, and on and on and on. And I'll make this presentation available so that you can really look over things more carefully. I would add that being comfortable with a range of emotions is really important. I think a lot of times we don't feel a lot of comfort bringing emotions to the table and having them be embraced at work. And I think that that really is a feature of strong leadership. The second piece is self-management, which essentially is how do you, once you know how you have to be and what's effective and maybe where you need to make improvements, like how do you actually make yourself do those things? Like how do you manage, like we always want to manage other people, like micromanaging, but then how do you manage self? And I think creativity, I don't know why that's not on a lot of leadership lists, but I believe in a very profound way that creativity is really important. If you do a 360, which is essentially something you would do if you're in a corporate environment where you make a list of people that you want to give you insights into your leadership abilities, your weaknesses, strengths. This is the one that I was trained in, and it's all about creative competencies and reactive competencies. And what's so interesting about that is every time you identify where you're reactive, you tend not to be very effective, and where you can find yourself on these 360s that's creative is where there's actually movement and inspiration. So in terms of bad leadership, I thought that you can all just start putting into chat what you think is bad leadership. Here's just the list that's come up in my workshops that I've kind of compiled, but I think it's more interesting for you all to see each other's. So I'm just gonna be silent for a little bit so that you can read each other's comments. And again, you'll have this to look back at. So yeah, just type them all in. Even if they're repeated, it's kind of interesting to see what comes up over and over and over again. I should have music in the background, but I don't. All right, I'll give you another minute or so. All right. So why does leadership matter? And, there's probably tons of reasons, but I think for all of us here, and especially with the work you're all doing, is impact. A lot of people lead, and especially in corporate America, where making money is kind of the end game and making lots of it. I think those of us that are in the social impact space want to make sure that we see that things not only change, but that they transform. So why is a leader so important is you're the one that's leading the charge to make sure that whatever your point A is, that you get to point B, because you're the person that's tasked with having the vision. So going into values-based leadership, this is where we're going to do the exercise. What I start with this with all my one-on-one clients, and these are just some examples of what I delivered to them after the the exercise. So these are 3 examples of 3 different clients that after maybe 50 different qualities, one came up with family, honesty, and commitment. Another came up with learning, reliability, connection. Another with caring, integrity, and collaboration. And so I want to have you guys all do this exercise. So you should be able to see a bit.ly that I can't see because it says share my screen, but hopefully you see it. There's a bunch of words that are the values exercise. If you can type in the URL here, you will see that there's a Google Doc that essentially has instructions and all the values exercises. This values exercise. So let me move forward. And if you're having issues with that, just put in the chat that you are not being able to log into that.
Hey, Shana.
Yeah.
I think that we all see the same thing that's on your screen, so we can't see the bit.ly either.
Oh,
so maybe you can drag that thing or move it, or I don't know, somehow get us the link. There you go.
Oh, all right. Thank you. So just type this in, http://bit.ly and then the /3 values. And you should see a Google Doc open up, and I made it available with anyone with the link. So Sarah, maybe you can, because I can't really see anyone, you can be my voice to see if people are able to access the exercise. Okay.
We got it.
You into breakout groups. They're called tables, and essentially you're going to be 4 to a table. So I want you to all kind of look at the list and start. Okay, so essentially this is the short version of what is on this bit.ly link. So the exercise is as follows. You're going to go through the list, and you're going to have a filter of just what are values that you resonate with. Then you're going to go through the list again and think family. When you think family values, your own family, the family that you were born into, what were those values? And then the third pass you're going to do is when you think leadership, what are those values? Essentially what you're going to be looking for is where are you marking, and whatever value has all 3. So again, don't worry about being perfect. This will become clear to you when you do it. So you're going to get into on your table. You're going to be 4 in a group. You're going to have access to the Google Doc and start looking at it and talking amongst each other, and start trying to figure out and tease out what are the 3 values that you think right now in your life are most important. If you decide you want to take a little time each and just have silence and just agree amongst yourself that you're going to do that, we're going to give you 20 minutes. So again, is that clear, Mark? You think people need more instruction?
You can't.
Yeah, so it seems okay, so that bit.ly link didn't work. I'm going to paste in the actual Google link in there, right? Is that where we need to be, Shana? Okay.
Chat. Yeah. Here we go.
But there's nothing in that Google link, Shana.
There's nothing in the Google link.
Is there another link?
Let's try. I'll just.
Oh, are we supposed to see that link? Yeah, that's not the link that we have. You need to share that link in there. Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, yeah, values, exercise. Yep, we see it.
Okay.
All right, cool, good stuff.
What I recommend you all do is like download it. Okay, so why don't we why don't people just let us know in chat if these instructions are clear? Just give us a thumbs up, a thumbs down.
Yeah, we can see the whole doc now. So you can download it or make a copy of it, and go ahead and do that. And maybe one person in each of the groups can do that, and then just that one person who's kind of the master of that doc, they can share their screen within that table, and people can just type in their stuff. So maybe one person each table is the kind of the facilitator of that table. And then just use this Google Doc as that master doc for that table. Okay, cool.
So just wanted to say something really quick. Like, we're all just starting to adapt to like this digital world. So again, just let perfection go and do the best job you can. And again, you'll have all this for later. So the idea is that you want to connect with other people in your group. You want to start trying to figure out what your values are. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then you're going to have 20 minutes to work together. You're going to come back and we're going to move forward.
And you're suggesting 4 people per table?
Yeah. So essentially you'll have some time, however you want to organize your time. Like if you want to just each work independently and then you can work together, and somebody should just time keep, and then we'll let you know when you have about 5 minutes left.
All right. Good stuff.
All right.
All right, and if you have any questions, everyone, just go ahead and type it in the chat.
Okay, good. Thanks. Well, welcome back. I hope that was fun and valuable. What we thought we would do is, if you because I think it'll be really interesting to see how you all fared. Okay, I'll read some things out. So leadership, teamwork, self-respect, reliability, community, gratitude, risk-taking, reliability, compassion, and whoops, they're going so fast. Making a difference, awesome. Table 6, diversity and inclusion, collaboration, making a difference, curiosity, awesome. Connection, exploration, resourcefulness. How about a couple of other people just sharing with us like why are values important in leadership, and especially for climate-focused entrepreneurs and leaders and designers? Yeah, it is hard. Remember that this is just an exercise, and I work with clients. This takes a half an hour. It's one-on-one, and over 10 sessions, which could be as much as 6 months, we're honing these. So it's just good to start a conversation, even if you're feeling that it's frustrated. Like, don't worry about getting it right. Yeah, so somebody, Roseanne, saying that it can be very frustrating if values are not aligned. And again, if you read through the Google Doc, how I define values are when you kind of lose it, when you go 0 to 60, when you can't understand where the trigger is, where you explode. Like, values have to hit you that hard. Okay, yeah, brands buy to share their values. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's move on to the next section. Just one other thing is, when you do go into the next breakout, just make sure that you're evenly sharing time. We understand that there's some bigger tables and smaller tables, but yeah, just wanted to share that. Okay, back to the presentation. Okay, so part 2 is so raising consciousness. This one is a little tougher. So this is from the animated film Monsters and Aliens. The reference here is basically like the reptile within all of us, kind of the knee-jerk reaction, the part of us that really maybe we haven't done a lot of introspective work. And so I kind of just start with that as a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Essentially how consciousness works is like the things we're aware of. Let's just use this image of an iceberg. So it's kind of like everything above water. You can see it, friends can see it, family can see it, coworkers can see it. And then most of us, I would say, where the unconscious part of our lives is again, using this image, is like under the water. And what's interesting about icebergs is they're usually much bigger below the surface than they are above. So, you know, classically, those of us that seek out a little bit more information about ourselves and where we've come from and why we operate the way we do and where, you know, why we felt the pain we've experienced and where it might be coming from, you might have sought out therapy. So I'm just using the proverbial Freudian couch. And at least in Western psychology, let me move this out of the way, because I know you guys are from all over. We, you know, we all know, at least, well, I'm assuming you do, but Freud, the idea of the ego and the id. And then a contemporary of Freud's was Carl Jung, who was a lot more, kind of came from a more creative standpoint. He was into dream analysis and archetypes. And so if you want to learn a little bit more about all of this, there's tons of books you can read. You know, again, this will be available to you guys, but, you know, there's everything from like Psych 101. And there's a lot of cool information in, you know, books on Jung and Freud. I think Malcolm Gladwell has an interesting thing he talks about snap judgments we make in blank. The Century of Self is a BBC series all about the beginning of advertising and in focus groups. It turned out that the nephew of Freud was the person that brought focus groups to the US. So again, these are just some ways if you want to learn more. But the exercise I really wanted to focus on is called Johari's window, and it's used in all different ways. But I use it with my clients to help them figure out where the blind, the unknown, and the hidden are. So the open is essentially what's above the iceberg, the things that you know about yourself, others know, the good, the bad. Then there's things that you don't know that you're blind to that probably other people are aware of. Then there's things that are unknown, meaning you're in the don't know space. And then the hidden means something is wrong, like you just feel it in your bones. You can't figure out what it is. And I think this is the hardest quadrant to really figure out. So this is just another visualization of the Johari's window, and it helps you understand a little bit about when you get feedback, then you can start to understand the second quadrant. When you share your discoveries, then you can start to understand more about the unknown. And then the hidden area, I think the hidden area often is where, you know, being in therapy can be extremely helpful, because usually what's hidden has a lot of history underlying. And so I think most of us are going to be able to work the best in number 2. So in using this Johari's window, I'm just saying like open would be above water where we're all aware. And then the iceberg is starting to work on the blind, the unknown, and the hidden. So I just want to share a little bit with you guys on my blind, hidden, and unknown. In 2011, I took the second of 3 courses. The first was called Wisdom, the second Partnership, and the third Power and Contribution. They were each 10.5-month courses. And so I took them over 3 years. And one of the exercises for partnership, which was all about you in relation to others, were these 6 questions. And you had to pick 20 people, and you told them ahead of time, you're doing this to help me. Please be candid. Don't worry about how I'm going to feel. This is going to be a big gift. So the questions were, what do you like about me? What do you think I need to improve? What do you think are my greatest strengths, weaknesses? What's one thing you think I don't know about myself that you think I should know? And is there something you'd like to tell me that you haven't been able to, for whatever reason, that you think I'd benefit from knowing? And this is the list that I was given. And, you know, granted, this is 18 people that supposedly care about me. And this was my weaknesses. So they said, I have a lack of grace. Again, this is 2011. I'm critical, difficult to meet my expectations. I'm difficult with dealing with criticism, difficult with my emotions, excessively and obsessively driven, impatient. I am unable to show empathy. I'm insincere. I've got lots of head and little heart. I have a low tolerance for people. I'm overly self-focused and self-absorbed. When I get bored with people's topics, I dismiss them. I'm bossy, defensive, demanding, and sometimes people can be afraid of me. And to this, I basically said to everybody without saying it, you know, speaks for itself. So be ready to receive what you ask for, because you're probably in that Johari's window of hidden and unknown, going to receive some information that's not so great. But essentially what I think we all are is we're all just, like Michelangelo, this is his sculpture, The Slave. And if you think of David, which is, his masterpiece, we're just all chipping ourselves out of a block to be better versions of ourselves. So why is this important for leadership is probably where you need to work on your leadership is bad things that are associated with bad leaders. And as soon as you can start to uncover this, and even if you want to do this with 20 of your closest friends and colleagues, you're going to learn a lot. And it really is a huge gift that people can give you. So I just put this in for hopefully a little laugh, Homer as Edvard Munch's Scream, because it's a lot to think about. It can be very overwhelming. And, this is something that you're going to learn over time. So I want to move you guys into your tables again, because what's relevant for leadership and climate leaders and the work you're doing is what is actually driving you to do the work you're doing. Because if you don't know what's driving you, it's driving you as opposed to you driving it. And so you want to be really clear about, like, what are the motivations behind this? Like, what is it that you're trying to achieve? And when you break out into these groups, also, I would love for you to explore with each other, like, what are the 3 leadership competencies or strengths that you want to master? And you can also share what things do you know right now you're not so great at that you want to get better at. So let me stop sharing, and yeah, just let me know in chat if that's clear. And Mark, after we just kind of get a little bit of insight from people, we can move people into tables.
Yep. So AirMeet will put you back in the same groups. And how many minutes, Shana?
So we're going to give you 15 minutes for this. And again, remember, this is just exploration. We're all on a journey. I've been in so many of these workshops that have taken years on end. My leadership training course, like, itself was 40 days over 6 months. So again, just, work with each other. This is a discovery exploration. And you just basically want to uncover, in terms of, like, being more conscious, like, why do you do the work you do? And then again, what do you need in terms of leadership to get better at, and or what do you think you're great at and that you could do more about? So again, no wrong answers, and just make sure you share equally with your group.
And Shana, so Roseanne has a question if you want to look in the chat.
Yeah, to answer these questions, are we working from a list like before, or just in general? Just in general. Just use kind of like the group intelligence to talk about what these things are. And if you want to refer back to what do you think is in your, the iceberg below the water, again, I think, this is just kind of an open forum to start to do some discovery around, how do you become more conscious? How do you become more aware? How do you figure out what drives you to do what you do? And how is that going to inform the work you do as a climate leader in the change that you want to make?
Awesome. And just to repeat the prompts, Sarah chatted them just about a minute ago. So if you want to scroll up in the chat, you'll see the prompts. And let's see. Yeah, go ahead and stay in the same tables. There's no reason why you need to bounce around. So yeah, we'll go into breakouts now.
Cool. See you in a bit. So welcome back. We would just love to hear from you all in the chat. We're going to try in the end to give people some opportunities to come up and share. So far, silence, nothing. You learned nothing. Okay, so I will move on then. Oops, mastering integrity, empathy, curiosity. Awesome. You sure you don't want to share? Come on. That's how we all learn. Delegate. Yes, me too. Our group thought that delegating, oh my gosh, clearly communicating were things they wanted to work on. Yes, that is huge. Risk, delegation, confidence. Yes, setting better boundaries, absolutely. Consistency through times of stress, making impact in various industries. Yeah, absolutely. This is great. Again, these are just starting conversations. You'll probably start to initiate these conversations with lots of friends and colleagues after. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen so we can move on to part 3 of this. Here we go. Okay, so I just wanted to mention again this list of things that is, the first time I did was very humiliating, but I think, basically once you shine light on these things, you start to realize that then you can work on them. So once things come out of a space of being hidden into, from darkness to light, then all of a sudden you can kind of look at your list and figure out what is it that I need to tackle first, because, it's overwhelming. And I think it's also the first thing that happens. The impact on me was just, heartbroken, embarrassed, shame, like all sorts of negative emotions. And then when I kind of took a deep breath and realized that actually all of these people, I'd asked them, first of all, like, let's be honest. I said, tell me, give me some insights into these things. It gave me the ability to look at them and really figure out what I wanted to. So I just wanted to bring this up again because I think this is where most of us just move into panic and fear to learn more about ourselves. All right, so this is just a little bit of a preamble to the third section, but because you guys are in climate, you're designers and you're leaders, you can't just be thinking about change. And so I wanted to share what I think the difference between change and transformation is. Like essentially change is something like a substance like water. You can freeze, becomes ice. You can defrost, becomes water. That to me is change. Where transformation is something like you put a bunch of ingredients together, you bake it, and once you get your amazing cookie squares, you never can get back to batter no matter how you try. And I think that's essentially what you all want to be working with in terms of climate change, because as we've heard in so many articles and documentaries and speakers, no planet and what else is there. You can be an expert in trying to work on all sorts of different causes, but if we don't have a planet to live on, there's really not a lot else that we can be doing. So moving into the art of influencing. And again, I wanted to underscore the idea is the art of influencing for transformation. So there was a time where many people thought, and the idea that the world was flat. This is just a piece of artwork that I love. The idea was that if you sailed far enough, you'd fall over the edges. And then with time, especially with Magellan, who was the first explorer to circumnavigate the globe, this is Hans Holbein painting where in the center you can see this globe that proved the first time that the world was round. But the question at the time is like, what is the truth about the world? Back when these conversations were happening about, is the world flat, is the world round? Like, what access to facts did humans have back when the world was supposedly flat? And once they had the facts, did that change the hearts and minds of everyone? And if not, why not? And I think the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because there's a lot of people that still don't believe that we are having a climate crisis. And so for those of you working in the space, how is it that you're going to influence people to start to act differently, which turns you into, having capacity to do behavior change? So I think the question that we all have, and especially you that are working very deeply in the space, is how do you change people's minds to move them from thoughts and intentions, which is all very cerebral, into action? So this is your third breakout. And what I think would be great is that you start to share stories of effective powers of persuasion. Who in the climate space is doing it well? What tactics are they using? What's successful? And as you share with each other, what can we all learn? Originally, I was going to have you capture notes here. I think it's just too distracting, so ignore that. So again, you're going to break out. You're going to move into your same tables. Let's, talk about the power of persuasion, influence, and who in the space is doing a great job at this, and how can we learn more from those people? So, moving back, we will have Mark move you into the tables, and you guys have, we're going to give you 7 minutes, so we have time for Q&A at the end.
And Shana, this might be a good time to share with everyone about your, you are able to stay after to present more info.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a hard stop with the presentation at 3:30, but I have another 20 minutes and I can stay on for Q&A. I just felt like you're going to get the most value out of sharing with your groups. And so I didn't want to take tons of Q&A time, but certainly I'm here for 20 minutes and you'll see my email at the end, so you can always get in touch with me. So yeah, just let me know, just give us a thumbs up if instructions are clear. And if they're not, we will, oh good, thumbs up,
Yeah,
good.
Sarah put them in the chat. All right,
oh good.
See you all in a few.
Yes, 7 minutes. So welcome back. I hope that was fruitful. So we only have 5 minutes left. So I'm going to wrap all this up, and then we're going to have some Q&A. And again, I can stay later for those of you that want to chat more. So once more, just going to share my screen really quickly. And here we go. So I just kind of wanted to pull all of these pieces together. And I started with what I said was a random Google search. And looking back at it, I don't think it was really that bad. So, except for my abilities to use PowerPoint are not so great. So vision. So what a vision it means, I think, for all of us is with, you're all climate designers, like what's the path forward and where can you find clarity to begin with? And, drawing from all of my experience in the startup world, everybody had a clear idea and it changed over time, but at least starting with a place where you want to get to and go and the impact you want to make, I think is really important. I would say the second that came up was courage. And then as you become more courageous, it's really what's infectious with other people. It's really what inspires us all is when we see people get up and stick their necks out and do what they care about, screw up and keep going. In terms of integrity, that's where our values exercise fit in. Like, how do you be real clear about your values? How are you going to test them out? Like, what are you going to do in the next week to figure out if the ones you chose really are what resonate with you? And I think my biggest tip for you would be, again, where do you go 0 to 60 and where, do you get yourself wrapped all up with a bee in your bonnet? Questions. And again, that takes courage. Strategic planning, I think that can help you. You can help to get to strategic planning, which is, definitely a skill set. Not all of us are great at it, but is it a strength or a weakness? If it's a strength, great. And if it's not, that could be either a place of collaboration as you're working on projects that you look to somebody else that brings that to the table, or it's something that you get some training yourself on. The sixth in that article was focus. So the question for all of you in the climate space, there's so much, and it affects everything from housing to food to all sorts of security. What is it that you are going to focus on? And start with what excites you, because I think if you come from a space of like what you should do, that's not nearly as compelling as really where your passions are. You don't have to worry. There's so many people that want to make an impact that distributed, that the issues will be handled. And then the seventh was cooperation. I would say collaboration. So who is it that you want to work with to create impact? Because obviously none of us can do this ourselves. So looking again to strengths and weaknesses and values, who do you want to put around you, yourself to reach the type of impact that you want to. So yeah, I hope that was valuable. Again, this is kind of like a little tasting menu of things to think about as you move forward in your own journey of being a leader and being a designer and working in climate. And we have a minute left, so if you guys have any comments or questions, definitely put them in chat. And like I said, for any of you that can stick around, I'm here. Mark will bring you to the stage, the digital stage. And again, we'll share the presentation, take the exercises, share them far and wide. And maybe you can have some great conversations, when we all get back together and have dinner together. But thank you for these digital applause. Certainly feedback is encouraged. But I hope that was useful. It was rapid fire, and I'm going to shut up now so we can go to questions.
All right. Thank you, Shana. That was great. Shana, while I'm giving my little spiel right now, go ahead and put your contact info in the chat. I think you missed that slide. For those who have a hard stop at the bottom of the hour, thank you for joining. As you heard, Shana is willing to hang out with us for a few extra minutes. If any of you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the questions feature on the right-hand side. If any of you want to raise your hand and get invited to the stage, go ahead and do that. If you want to maybe share some insights from your table conversations, that would be awesome. So yeah, you could do one of the two, or if you want to do both. Oh, and also too, before you all, if you do have to jump off, just a reminder, we have our next session tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern, with Jill. I think Jill's here. She's in the audience. She's going to be running the session, Designing with the Climate Justice Framework. So super excited for that. So be sure to check that session out. Another interactive session as well. So anyone wants to raise your hand and come on stage and share any insights or ask Shana a question specifically, have a conversation, you're more than welcome to do so. Or put them in the questions menu down on the very bottom right-hand side. But we do have a few questions, Shana. So I'll go ahead and ask the Sasha asks, who are some of your favorite leaders?
Oh my God. I really admire Jacqueline Novogratz, who's the CEO and founder of the Acumen Fund. She's just, it's funny, a lot of people ask me, like, what are the archetypes of female leadership? And I feel like she really embodies elegance in the way she speaks, in her just way of being. So I mean, I think she's great. And she's a pioneer in the space around venture philanthropy. So yeah, I would say that she comes to mind.
And can you repeat her name again?
Yes, Jacqueline Novogratz, and she is the CEO founder of the Acumen Fund. And also, Acumen is a great free education, online education. So, and they do adaptive leadership and a bunch of really great work there.
Yeah, Acumen is awesome. So we have a question. I'm going to do upvotes. So if you do see a question in here that you like, go ahead and upvote it. So we have Lisa. When everything feels important, how do you tune into where the best focus your efforts?
Yeah, I think the real kind of soul-searching question is, what do you care the most about? Like, what are the things that affect you personally? Because chances are that's going to give you the best jump start on figuring things out, who's in the space, who else you can collaborate with. And again, I think the compulsion for all of us is to try and solve all these problems. But if you realize you're in a community of people, you can, and it's not really selfish. I think it's more strategic. Like, things are going to get handled because we all have different things we're passionate about. So kind of think like an archer, like start to really hone in on what the bullseye means to you. And then that will help shape your own starting point. And then as you meet people along the way, a lot of things change.
Nice. This is from... let me ask Sarah's question, kind of more of a comment. I have a friend who goes 0 to 60 anytime the conversation veers towards politics. He gets very triggered immediately. Is this enough info to identify a value? Clearly, there's something underlying this that he needs to work on. Not sure what.
I think for me to think quickly on this, I would say there's probably something else going on, and it might be around not being heard. It could be that there's something that politics represents for him, and the 0 to 60 isn't really about the politics. It's about his views and his values are not being heard. So I bet you it's more about him than it is about the politics. It's probably masked and hidden within the politics. So, but that's just a very, very general guess. But that would be my best guess.
Sure. Awesome. Roseanne, I think that last prompt was really useful. Can we hear any examples of successful tactics?
For which one?
The last prompt that we did in the tables, which was, let me go back to the chat.
Oh, you mean the, sorry. Oh, you mean for the
Yeah, sharing stories of effective power of persuasion, who in the climate space is doing well. I think she's referring to the persuasion stuff.
Yeah, so there's a really great resource that Harvard Business Review has on influence and persuasion. And when Mark and Sarah report back, I'll put that in there. It's such a huge topic that I don't want to take a stab at something that's so massive, but I just think it's like really essential. And I'm actually thinking of taking a course this year. Harvard has a department of like negotiation, and I mean, some types of people and professions that are really great at this are salespeople, lawyers, people that are into financial planning, because the whole question is, if we all know that we're going to need to retire and we need money, why don't we save money? So you might want to think outside the box and think about professions that are trying to do get behavior change to happen. And because it all applies, right? The theories can be applied to climate designers and climate change. It just means that the focus is going to be different, but the tactics are the same.
Yeah, and just a quick note, Sarah and I, we run The Determined, which is a creative studio, and we work with our clients, and we're bringing in processes and methodologies, human-centered design, agile, design thinking, all these different tactics that these startups use to become successful. Why the hell not apply them to the climate space? And even just as an individual, I always look at advertising, even though we definitely, have our 2 cents about it. I just use I look at what they do. I look at what these big ad companies do and see what I can take from that and apply it to my clients' work.
Yeah, I would say one thing about that is like advertising, basically what they're feeding off is fear and a sense of like not enough. Like, look at how they're selling us things, like we're not enough of X, and if we would buy this, then we would get that. And I think when you look at positive psychology research, that actually people are more motivated to change from positive than fear-based, shame-based, because that might get you to buy something, but it's not going to have you transform. So that's something to look into. And if you Google positive psychology, there's a lot of free literature and a course on it.
Nice. Janavi, can you share about the climate leadership coaching you went through, or any suggestions for the individuals who want to opt for coaching and consulting for climate and behavior change for sustainability?
I think the thing is to start with just general leadership coaching. Like, I don't know that I'm sure that there's some specific programming for people in this space, but essentially leadership, it has like the competencies are kind of across industries. And so I think, maybe going back to this presentation, again, I can put some resources that I'll share with Sarah and Mark. I think you really just want to know the basics, like, if you were to use the analogy of university, like the 101. And then in terms of what is really specific for climate leadership, I really think how to understand behavior change is essential, because that's what we all have to do, right? We have to consume less, we have to eat less meat. It depends on what you believe, but like that's out there as data. We need to use less fossil fuels. So all of these things require us to do things that are different, and it's an active change. We can't just be passive. It's not thoughts, it's actions that's going to, change things around. So that would be my best recommendation. And then maybe, Sarah and Mark, you might have some further resources for climates specifically.
Right. Yeah, definitely. We can share those as well. I'm going to jump to Olivia's question, because I'm also interested in this. How did you go about gathering the feedback from friends and colleagues? Was it anonymous to ensure that they were honest?
Oh, yeah. So I sent around an email and told people, like, framing it, like, oh, look, I'm in this course. This is part of it. Would you like to participate? Kind of letting them know, like a doctor does before they give you a shot when you're little, it probably will be painful. You'll be doing me a big favor. And it was all, as much as I could, it was in person, but a lot of it was on the phone just for convenience. And I think also it's just a little easier when you have a bit of remove. But no, nothing anonymous. There had to be high courage. And at least with me, it really got me, I think the relationships improved immensely, because also you couldn't react. You couldn't say, you're full of crap, I don't agree with you. You just had to completely button it up and listen. So you were doing another skill you can start to look into called committed listening or active listening, where you don't respond. And then the more you listen, the more people will reveal to you. So it was very systematic. You can email me and I think I've written up, I've written up instructions for other people, and I'm happy to share that with you. Nice. Just get ready that you might not like what you hear. Like I shared my list with you.
Yeah, but it's important to have those conversations, and it only helps you as a person to step more into a better person.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say about that is I think it gave me tremendous confidence, because I figured like no one has anything on me. I know so much dirt on myself. I know all of my, not all, but like so many of my blind spots. If my friends and family see this in me, like everybody does. So I think I didn't feel like I had to hide anything, because it was like, I've used the analogy before, like it was the 7th Mile that Eminem was in, where he basically wraps all of his insecurities and his upbringing in a trailer before the next guy came with a rap battle just to destroy him. Like basically the next guy had nothing to say, because in the character Eminem plays is he just basically just puts it all on the table. So I'm a big proponent of courage, and with that courage comes like falling flat on your face and being imperfect, and just like giving yourself permission. And that, it's not falling off a cliff. Like you'll make it. You'll be able to see the light of day and look people in the eye. And I think people really admire that quality in all of us.
Yeah. Cheers to vulnerability and being comfortable. All right, Lucy, how do you think gender stereotypes and archetypes affect the way we describe and think about leadership? That's a good one.
Completely. Everything. Yes. I don't even know how to tackle that question. It's like so profound and deep. I think that's just probably the best thing to say, and I don't know how to unpack it in a Q&A, but I would say huge topic to talk about and deal with.
Well, maybe, with everyone in the audience, just keep an eye out for that and find ways to address that within these, within learning your leadership qualities.
Yeah, I think the other thing to keep in mind is identity, like all types of identity, and also culture. Because like that's why I said in the presentation Western psychology, like I actually studied comparative religion at Columbia at the graduate level, and was introduced to like Buddhism, Hinduism, and then a lot of religions that would fall under anthropology because they didn't have a book. And I think we need to be aware, especially those of us working globally, that, a lot of the intel and a lot of what's written is very left brain, very like a Western perspective. So how do we become more inclusive and have self-awareness enough that we're coming from a Western point of view? And so, the global issues, like in anthropology, they say the first step to understanding other people is realizing that you have a mask that you're operating from, which is your own, nature, nurture, the people you're around, the conversations you're in, the news you consume. So yeah, I think that's my best answer right now.
Alrighty. And last question we have, Shana, what is the most effective way to work on leadership opportunities?
Create it your own project. Come up with something you want to do. And, like Mark and I met, I completely remember we were I think it was at the Brown campus, and we were chatting, and we were just, we're like, let's do this thing. And we were both jazzed and determined. And, and if you don't have a partner in the beginning, just get something started, because like there's that great YouTube video that a movement starts with the second person that comes to the dance party. It's not the first person.
Yeah, the lone nut. Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Yeah. So that's the best way you're going to hone your leadership skills, is to lead. And that starts with putting something together, getting people around you, understanding what it takes. And all the rest comes with trial and error. And I don't know, I just think like the School of Hard Knocks is going to be your best educator.
Mm-hmm. Great. Good stuff. The chat is pretty active. So thanks for all your comments. Lisa, that is a really great interview question. Lisa puts in the chat, what would your closest friends and family say about you? How would, responding to that if someone were to ask you that in an interview? I think that's a really interesting question. No. Just if you were being interviewed, if I were to say to you, "Hey, Shana, what would your closest friends or family say about you?" How do you?
Oh, since 2011, when they ripped me to shreds. I'm perfect now. Let me just tell you, 10 years. I think they would say caring, feisty, kind of like dances to her own tune, sings her own tune. Not always articulate. I don't know.
You have a friend in the chat. She's
Tanya. Tanya Savage, and I go way back. I don't know, like maybe blunt. A lot of things. Email me offline.
I have we've known each other for a good while. I have my thoughts too. You're awesome.
Give me one thing I could improve. Here, we'll role model a little bit of what this is like.
Your presentation sharing skills.
Okay, so get those better.
The tech side of things, not the presentation itself, but the tech side.
Right. Okay.
But we're also, keep in mind, everyone, Shana, we've been doing tech sessions with all the presenters, and Shana's been coming to a lot of them. So, but it's also a new platform. So, we're all learning. We're all learning.
And I agree with that. And watch how your friends are gonna say something, and then they're gonna sweeten it up, because it's really hard to deliver very, very candid feedback. And you're absolutely right. And I hope the content trumps. Well, I guess we don't want to say that word anymore. I hope the content speaks for itself, and my presentation can get way better. And I would just say, I wanna say to both Mark and Sarah, that you guys are so freaking courageous to do this, to be on a new platform. It's not Zoom, what we're familiar with, and sticking your neck out for all of us to provide for this amazing community. So, lots of appreciation, and giving us the comfort to whatever, not be perfect. Perfection is way overrated.
Yeah, I'm going to remind myself that the next week and a half, dealing with both Hey Summit and Air Meet. If you all are ever interested in putting on a virtual event like this, please let me know. I will tell you all the things not to do.
Yeah, awesome. I think the last thing I just wanted to say is, I just feel like we need to be more kind with each other. Honestly, like we're up for lots of resistance with change and climate.
Right.
And like self-compassion is so important. So, I think if I can leave you with anything, it's like, just keep coming back to impact and kindness and compassion and resilience, and just like knowing that you care about things, and you're just going to keep working on being better at it. Like, that's the best we can all do, right?
Yeah, definitely. And if this was in real life, we would all get up and stand in a big circle and do a big ass group hug.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Shana, thank you so much for this. Thank you for staying over your time, and we appreciate what you offered to the summit. And thanks everyone for sticking around a little bit later. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for your participation in the breakout tables, and see you all tomorrow, 12 o'clock Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, and whatever other time your time zone tells you. All right, everyone, have a great day. Feel free to stay here and again, mingle in the tables. Feel free to use this 24/7. We have access to it for 12 days. So,
yeah. And again, I'm available by email. I have to run now, but I wish I could see you all in person, and hopefully that'll be something we'll all be able to do very soon. So take care, everybody.
Later.
Bye.